On the phone now, we're very privileged to have with us Zach Prather. Zach, where are we calling you at the moment?
Oh, I'm in Switzerland now, in Zurich.
Oh, fantastic. A lovely area. I love Switzerland, and I've been to Zurich a couple of times. Fabulous city.
Card.
Can we take you back a few years to when you first started in the business?
Okay, well, that's a little more than a few, but right ahead.
Well, I guess the information I've got is that you began playing when you were 13 years old. I suppose really we should stress that you are some kind of fantastic blues and rock guitarist. And that was, I guess, when you first picked up a guitar.
Yeah, for sure. That was actually right before then. We were always standing around our friends' backyards with brooms listening to Beatle records and pretending we were the Beatles. And then the next movement was to buy a guitar.
Now, that was one of the things that surprised me when I was reading up about you, is that you were influenced by the British bands, by the Stones, the Beatles, the Who, and people like that.
Yeah, that was my, maybe it was just my generation. I mean, my parents were listening to blues and people like Ray Charles, but I was really, what turned me on to music was bands like the Stones and the Small Faces and these kind of bands. That's really motivated me to want to play it. And it was much later in life that I actually got into the blues, even though I was living in Chicago.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Chicago, you would imagine that it would be just the blues, some of those fantastic blues players from that area. But when you were 15, you got picked up by Curtis Mayfield's record label, Curtum, and got signed to that.
Yeah, it was at a time when there were quite a few young guys bands, you know. It was kind of a novelty to see some guys that could play 2 or 3 chords, you know. And Curtom was based in Chicago, and so we got lucky. We did a couple of demos, and then they liked it, and we did some regular tracks. They didn't do very much, but it was pretty exciting for us at 15, 16 to be in the studio, and all of this was actually very exciting for us.
I'll bet. And then a couple of years military service, after which you moved to Los Angeles and started playing with Cash McCall.
Yeah, I went back to Chicago when I got out of the military for a while, and I started my own band, and then I moved to Los Angeles.
Ah, right.
And then the percussionist and the bass player ended up playing with Cash. So when they came out to Los Angeles because they were Minnie Riperton's band, and Cash was looking for a drummer because he wanted 2 drummers, and they mentioned me, and I was in San Francisco, so I came down, and that's how I met Cash. And Cash really was the doorway to just about everybody I've played with since.
And that led you into playing with some of the greats, some of the really, really greats that people will know about. People like Etta James. Oh, that woman.
But because Cash was her band leader, too. He really was the guy. I mean, and Willie Dixon and Etta, he introduced me to these people and dragged me along with him, you know. I've got this great drummer because I was playing drums with these people. And it was through him I met all of these people, and it was a real history lesson and music lesson and career lesson. It was a very good few years for me.
Now, you became very close to Willie Dixon.
Yeah, it's a funny story, too, because I was working on a record with Willie. I was actually doing background singing with him, and he liked me because Willie always had all these ideas, but he could never quite remember which idea he told you. So if you were the kind of person that you could remember them all, he was really into it, you know. But he asked me if I would like to do a record with him. And I told him at that time, I said, well, Willie, you know, I know who you are and I respect you, and I know someone like you doing a record what that can do to someone, but I'm really into this kind of rock and roll thing, you know. And he told me, well, you know, blues is rock and roll, you know. Blues had a baby, they call it rock and roll. But something about that conversation, he really liked me and respected me because I didn't want to just take advantage of him. And I ended up playing with him and, recording a lot of stuff in his studio at his house for quite a few years, and I was actually with him the day before he died.
Wow.
A very sad time. But then I was really close with him, his wife.